Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. So do us a favor, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell for notifications, and of course, upvote the video itself and comment down below. We're here with Tom Vanderford as a part of our Grove Bowl reaction series this week. It's been all Grove Bowl all the time on the channel. How you doing, Tom?
Hey, I'm doing wonderful, man. Getting better every day.
Good. That's what we want to hear. That is what we want to hear. So, the Grove Bowl. What were the impressions that stood out to you in the game?
Well, first of all, Howard is the real deal. I mean, goodness gracious. I've heard you comparing to Eli before and this and that and the other, and I've heard other people talk about him being good. But the first time I laid eyes on him was the Grove Bowl. And the pass that stuck out in my mind and made me think Eli Manning was when he rolled to his right. He's almost out of bounds. He throws this floater to Knox, hits him right in the hands in the end zone, and Knox is covered. Yeah. And I'm like, good grief.
There was two or three amazing passes in that game.
Yes. All three quarterbacks were good in their own rights. Like I've heard you say recently, each one of them has something to work on in their game. None of them are the perfect quarterback. But it makes this Ole Miss fan, this old Ole Miss fan, happy to see that kind of depth at quarterback. It also makes me happy that I hadn't seen any of them try to go into the portal. So that makes me happy. I'm glad. I'm glad to see the defense. A lot of people are dogging the defense. He had like 3 base formations, and that was it. It was more than vanilla on defense, and I saw some good plays. I saw some good plays from the defensive line. I saw some good plays from the safeties, and I was concerned about that. Even the long passes that were connected, a lot of them we had good coverage. So when you've got quarterbacks that are that good, it's hard to do that. Now, one thing I was disappointed in, and I'm a Jaxson Dart fan, but every time he tried to hit number 12, Marshall, over the middle, like on a post route, he would overthrow him. So hopefully they'll get that fixed. I was impressed with Sanders, but I'm not going to stay on the quarterbacks forever. I thought Michael Trigg looked like a grown man. Mm-hmm. Of course, he looked pretty good last spring too, but he looked like he's bulked up a little bit. You know, he knows this is his money year. This is his 3rd year in college football. If he does a good job, he can go to the league, and you know, I think he's got all the tools to do that. So maybe that's pushing him a lot too. Linebackers, I thought there were 3 or 4 solid ones, and that made me happy, because I know we're only going to use 2 for the most part. Mm-hmm. I think we're still, I know, and you've said this a plethora of times, we're still missing our jack. Now, we've got a couple of kids coming in that we signed right there towards the end. One of them was the national sack leader in high school. He was a 3-star. But you can't always count on these recruiting services. I've learned that. There's a kid at Georgia there have been many kids at Georgia. Name the last 5-star quarterback that went to Georgia that was successful at Georgia.
Stafford?
You can't. Was he a 5-star?
I think he was up there. He was either a high 4 or a 5.
You know, Justin Fields just didn't fit and went to Ohio State and had a great time. They brought Daniels in from USC. He was a 5-star. Never really could do the offense. So, you know, you can't ever tell. But getting back to the Ole Miss Rebels, I was, and I know it's just a spring game, and the kid will probably never get any good carries, but he's got a good bloodline. His dad played in the NFL for 14 years, but I thought McAfee looked pretty good. The running back. Of course, we're going to have Reese Cano come in and so on and so forth. And as far as the defense goes, I would caution everybody that saw that spring game and got all up in their business about 52 to 53. Number one, it wasn't that. I think the red team actually got 2 touchdowns given to them during the game to make it close. But I wouldn't get too worked up about that because it was such a vanilla defense. And for the most part, I thought the kids did really good considering they'd only had 15 practices in this new defense. But you brought it up, I think, either on a tweet or maybe in a space or something. Don't forget, we've got some pretty good kids coming in that are going to contribute. Suntarian Perkins is going to play. If it was me in the 4-2-5, he would be the Tony Connor type guy. I think in the old 4-2-5 that we ran when Freeze was there, I think it was called the Husky, but I'm not sure. My mind's going, I'm getting old. But I think Perkins would do great in that Tony Connor role. So there's some immediate help. I mean, he's a dadgum superstar. He's got NFL wrote all over him. So there's some help on defense, and we've got more help coming. And I don't think we're done in the portal either. I think, much like I think it was you that I saw that made a tweet, I completely agree with. Everybody's upset that we're losing the 2 safeties and the defensive lineman to the portal. Well, I'm sure they had a meeting with all these kids afterward and said, right now, here's where you are on the depth chart. And those 3 guys didn't like what they heard. It's different times, man. Back when I was college age, and even when you were college age, there was no portal. And if you transferred, you'd have to sit out, and you'd probably end up at a smaller school anyway if you even got a scholarship somewhere else. So you just stayed there, toughed it out, tried to work your way up the depth chart. This is an instant gratification era, so a lot of kids that aren't starting, they're wanting to go somewhere else. Tywan Malone, I love the kid, but he wasn't a starter. This is his 3rd year on the defensive line. He was a top 100 player. He's not getting a lot of baseball playing time, which I have no idea why. I'm not a big baseball fan, but early in the season, he knocks them out of the park, and I don't know the story there. But he wants to go somewhere else. Hey, more power to him.
Michael Katz has reported that he's actually left the baseball team now. He went to the portal yesterday and left the baseball team.
Yeah. So I think he was disappointed in how much playing time he was getting on the baseball team. I wouldn't be surprised if the football coaches, and I haven't heard this. This is just me. I wouldn't be surprised if the football coaches said, "Hey, dude, you trying to play 2 sports is killing you in football." Mm-hmm. Because usually when you see a 2-sport kid, they usually give up the non-scholarship sport to concentrate more on the scholarship sport. And that's my thinking of what possibly could have happened to Malone. But Sabatini probably just saw himself buried in the depth chart. I see him going somewhere like Southern or Memphis or somewhere like that. I think he'd be a good fit. And the other kid, he was a sought after kid, so he may go back home to South Florida. He may end up at USF, or he may end up at Miami, or whatever the case is. But I'm overall pleased, and I think we're going to add a few more pieces through the portal. Now, the thing that gets me, I want to talk about this real quick, if you don't mind, because it just irritates the fire out of me. the Blue Bloods in the SEC made sure that there was a rule that there would be no SEC to SEC transfers after February 1. So, in other words, everybody that enters the portal right now, according to the rules that the SEC made, can't go to another SEC school. And you've already got Auburn, trying to get waivers to get some kids. And it's like, no. You guys made the rule. You can't change it just because it doesn't benefit you. But I'm sure they're not the only ones. Now, if that was to happen, I'm sure that we would try to get in with some of these kids too that are transferring. But as I understand it now, any kid in SEC that hit the portal after spring cannot go to another SEC school.
Yeah. You have to go into the portal before February 1st, I think.
Exactly. So, that's why we're looking at the lineman from Wyoming. We're looking at some more pieces here and there. Everybody's like, you've got too many receivers. I'd still take the receiver from TCU. I'm sure he's going somewhere else with big money, but I'd take him tomorrow.
Yeah.
You can never, in offense, you can never have enough good receivers. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. Just to let you know, tonight, as we record this, it's like 4:00 in the afternoon on Thursday. Shane Hooks is supposed to commit tonight at about 7. And a lot of people think he's probably going to commit to Ole Miss. So that's something everybody, not keep an eye on, but that's something that could have happened. But that's for your benefit, another wide receiver.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Reel them in. It's like I mentioned it before. I've got a lot of friends that are state folks, and some of them know how ate up I am with Ole Miss football, and they try to pick at me from time to time. And they're like talking about us going out in the portal and this and that and the other. And I'm like, guys, all I can tell you is every year he's been here, our roster has been deeper the next year and better. And I said, we've never been 3 deep with the kind of quarterbacks we've got in the modern era. That's amazing. We're 3 deep there. We're 3 deep at running back. We've got some good receivers. Trigg showed out. One thing I noticed though, and I think it was by design, they never threw to Prieskorn. Did you notice that? In the spring game.
No, I think that goes to Jaxson Dart's struggles in the middle of the field because the other quarterbacks in the other team, they were throwing it to Trigg.
Yeah, he needs to really work on that. I don't know what it is, if he's afraid of coverage, afraid of interceptions or whatever. But, I read something the other day where they gave him a list of things to work on, and he improved in all of them. Well, I didn't see that throwing across the middle from him. I don't know why. I don't know what the deal is. But I saw the other 2 guys throw across the middle.
Yeah, the pass of the Grove Bowl was by Spencer Sanders to Trigg across the middle.
Yep. And that combination looked pretty daggum good, too. And people got to remember something about Sanders. I'm not jumping on the Sanders train, but I am saying this. The guy's shoulder was only healthy for just a week or so before the spring game. I mean, he had some rehabbing to do and this, that, and the other. He looked pretty darn good. So that was impressive. I think in the portal, though, they're probably still looking for that Jack type player. They'd probably still take another offensive lineman or a defensive lineman. And with 2 safeties entering the portal, I'm sure they're going to look at safety, even if it's a depth piece.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I think offensive linemen and defensive linemen, every portal window is just evergreen at this point. You always need those players. But as far as skill players go, I mean, I think we're in pretty good shape offensively. Defensively, I think it might be a little clunky this year. I've said that a few times. And,
I think so. Yeah, because we don't have the fits everywhere.
Yeah.
We don't have Jack, that true Jack. And even if one of the, even if the Florida kid comes in, he's going to be a true freshman, man. He's going to make mistakes. He's going to, so we'll just have to see. I do believe that they're gonna work in the portal and get some help on defense. I could be wrong, man. They might not do anything, but
Yeah,
I think
we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I know that if they don't do anything, that'll be as much of a sign as that they were. That'll tell you what Lane Kiffin actually thinks about his roster currently, and not what we think about his roster.
Exactly, because when it all comes down to it, those guys' jobs are on the line. They're gonna get the best product they can because they want to keep those checks coming in. So you got to think about that. Us as fans, we can sit back and we can dissect and we can analyze, but when it comes down to it, it's their tail that's in a bind if this doesn't work.
Right.
So I've got, and I may be wrong, man. I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. But I think Pete Golding and the other people that we've added to the defensive staff are going to make a difference. It might take a couple of games into the season, but they're going to make a difference.
They'll flash for sure.
I'm going to tell you something. This is what I like. I was watching that spring game, and when the guy that's A&M, I can't even think of him now, the defensive coordinator.
Durkin?
He really,
Durkin?
He really didn't. He really wasn't a player's coach. I mean, he kind of did some things, but he really wasn't. And our other defensive coordinator was always up in the booth.
Yeah.
What I witnessed during the spring game with Golding is when the defense, I noticed it with the red defense because I was looking for number 36. But he would get down with, this is a spring game, he gets down with them with a whiteboard, and he's, in between series trying to help them. He walked up to Sistrunk, and he grabs his head and talks to him and smiles, and that helps. I'm not saying you have to do great things for the players, but just letting them know you care and letting them know that they feel like you're an important part of the program really, really helps. And I think we're going to be fine when we learn his system.
Indeed.
And you're right. We need a couple of more fits, but hey, we'll see.
Yeah, they'll get here.
Yeah. You never know. He's a smart guy. He may go, well, I'm going to have to make this little wrinkle and this little wrinkle because I don't have these people. But he didn't show any of that in the spring, and he's not going to. No. And he's not going to show it again in Mercer either. But we'll see it.
Yeah, if the offense, and everybody's talking about, the Jaxson Dart and the tight end, the Caden Prescorn thing, and it's like, no. If this team was hiding anything, it was hiding defensively. That's the reason we had 3 calls. That's the reason Lane Kiffin wanted to do that. He wanted a 53-52 game. He wanted a game that they could take nothing from. And he got exactly that. I think it was a massive success, and Ole Miss fans should be genuinely happy after watching it. Mm-hmm.
And opposing fans and opposing players, some of them in the SEC, were going, well, their defense is horrible just by looking at the 52-53 score, which is, is really not the case. That game was designed, like you said, to be a high-scoring game. Because they were looking at different things than we were looking at.
Yeah.
They've got to put, the best bodies they can on defense on the field next year when we're in the SEC. So they got to figure that out. But I do. I just feel a lot more comfortable with Pete Golding as defensive coordinator.
Me too. So thanks everybody for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. Every dayers tomorrow, Saturday recruiting. John Garcia will be on the show. We'll have an episode of that'll drop at about 6 o'clock Central Saturday morning. And of course, you can see the Tom standalone Sunday as well. So that'll be awesome as well. Anyway, Tom, thank you very much for joining us today, and I hope you have a great weekend, buddy.
Hey, man, you too. Hotty toddy.
Hotty toddy.